In terms of your role in transforming the insurance sector in Pakistan, what digital solutions do you believe could revolutionize this industry? How can Finnish technologies contribute?
So I think just let's take a step back, and since I'm representing the financial services industry, let's understand the context of insurance. Insurance is nothing but a prediction, a probability analysis, and what we are trying to predict in most cases is acts of God and accidents of man. So these are what we are trying to say is this is the probability that this will happen, and this is the severity, i.e. the impact that it will create. Now all of this is based on data. And if we look at our capability of collecting data, processing data, and using that data to make qualitative judgments, I think there is something to learn. What we have seen developed markets do very well is manage those data inputs. Today, if we look at the sector, a lot of the reinsurances that are provided, i.e. financial capacity in terms of balance sheet and risk capacities, are provided by Western markets because they've kind of gone ahead. They've taken the data points that were available, used the technologies to process that data and started predicting events. I mean, what we saw happen in Dubai a few weeks ago are all events that were modeled and impacts that were there. But I think there is something to learn from countries and technologies where they have had this a leap ahead of us in terms of being able to manage the data. And I think that's where building bridges and partnerships can be very relevant. We have lots of data points. We're a large country, and I think as the speakers before me have told, there are lots and lots of data points. We have lots of people, lots of events. There's so much technology. There is so much know-how that we are not privy to. And I think it's very important that we build these bridges with events like this and with partners like we have, when the ambassador and Will is sitting here, to help understand each other better. So we have a lot of opportunities. And I think we can partner for mutual gain. And there's a lot of money to be made as well.
So I'm going to talk about climate change here because you know, insurance and all of that. How do you feel, what kind of partnerships can be created to build resilience mitigation technologies? You talked about data points. How do you feel that can happen?
So again, as I said, we're a large country. And a certain very large percentage of our GDP, 30 odd, is linked to agriculture. And that's a focus that we are hearing more and more about the government and private sector coming into the agricultural domain. With a country like Finland, which is majority forests, I think a 90% plus, and I don't remember the exact number, but 95, 96% of the country is forests, and they have this technology. So I mean, the largest flower growers in the world are Dutch, but not because they have the largest land mass. So there are these knowledge and know-how which is sitting out there. It's about connecting the dots, and it's about bringing them in. I think there is a lot to learn in terms of managing the weathers, having weather stations. I think we need a lot more of them. I know some private investors and supported by some of the multilaterals have set up these weather agents to check how much pollution we have, which is giving us a perspective. But if you look at it from an agriculture perspective, so we have been working with a couple of local partners and a global reinsurer to talk about yield-based crop insurance. And that requires know-how and technology which is not indigenously available. So these are opportunities for collaboration, opportunities to learn. Bring stuff which we can implement here. The market is wide open.
Specifically talk about the insurance sector. What do you see some of the main challenges in digitalizing this particular sector? What?
So you cannot work remotely if you cannot have connectivity, which is a given. So I think building the rails is where we are a little bit behind. If we look at comparable markets where 5G has been introduced and we're still behind, that's some work that needs to be done. Can we do it on our own? Probably. Can we use some help? Can the Finns come in and some companies come in and help us build this? Probably yes. Will it be profitable? I think so. But there's some work to be done.
One of the things that I'd probably add on to what he was saying was that, again, Finland is one of the most digitized countries of the world. And right now, I mean, digitalization has been a priority for the last few governments, and we understand the power of what it can bring to a market like Pakistan. But I think that's something where we can definitely leverage. I mean, we have NADRA, it functions, there's a lot more that can be done. We were in a meeting with the IT minister a few weeks ago, and she was saying one of the two priorities for the Prime Minister from an IT perspective is digitalization. And there is a real drive and focus from the government right now, as there has been previously as well. But at this point, there is an opportunity for us to say, here are things that actually can be done on the digitalization front, and let's leverage the kind of expertise that Finland can offer for that, because it's a national goal, and it's going to trickle down, and there's a lot that we can all contribute in different areas, whether it's financial services or provision of goods or even the infrastructure side of it.
So, Gibran, I'm going to ask you, and whoever feels comfortable answering this question, in terms of adoption of technology, particularly from a payments perspective, how can we ease that? What can we learn from Finland or any other country, in terms of increasing this penetration?
So the finance thing is very interesting because there's Pakistan's finance or payment system is stuck in a sort of non-virtuous cycle, in that there's not a lot of digitization. Most transactions are carried out in cash, and so that means, for example, that for typical small business, let's say 99% of transactions are in cash, their access to credit is lower because there's not that much documentation as to how they're doing. And so that means that business stays smaller for longer than it should have, right? In a world where all these transactions are available for reading, for figuring out whether they're a good credit risk, that business could have been larger, could have gotten good access to credit. And I think in particular, Finland's done a lot of work on sort of e-government. That's one aspect. But if you purely look at it from a commercial perspective, a lot of work around centralized e-invoicing, right? Something like that can be transformative for medium businesses in Pakistan if they're able to, get access to credit based on data around how the business has been doing. And I think all of this is totally possible. It's totally possible to do, but we've got to learn from case studies like Finland, and I think once we adapt it to Pakistan, it can be very transformative.